Hey everybody, it's Russ from Path Less Pedaled, and today I'm going to do a follow-up review to the Beholder EC1. I did kind of a first look a couple weeks ago, but we recently just wrapped up a shoot where I used this extensively. So this video is going to be a little bit more in-depth review of what it's like to use this on an actual shoot. So the Beholder EC1 is one of the newer generation single-hand gimbals. They've got lots of cool features. Primarily they are using these bigger encoder motors so they can fly a bigger or a heavier payload, and they're just easier to adjust on the fly. How is it actually using the Beholder EC1? One of the things that was really attractive about it to me was that it's a relatively small package. And I thought, whoa, this would be way cool because it's easy to fold up and fairly compact. And it is really small and compact, but what I found was to use it effectively without my arms getting tired, I could only hold it one-handed for so long. And that became a bit of an issue, so I actually ended up rigging kind of a DIY two-handed mini fig rig for it using an old bicycle handlebar, clamp, and a Manfrotto quick release plate. And the way that this works is that the EC1 is drilled at the bottom, and I just put a quick release plate here. Then I slide it in to the plate holder on the handlebars, and I found myself using the Beholder EC1 mostly with this DIY two-handed rig. This really gave me the best results in terms of helping with fatigue, but also getting steadier shots. The encoders are awesome, but they are not magic. There's still a fair amount of body English and body control you have to apply. And I found at the end of the day that adapting it for use with two handles gave me kind of the best results. So let's look at some footage. One of the things I was really hoping the Beholder EC1 would allow me to do would be to leave a lot of other gear behind. I was hoping that the EC1 could do passable jib moves, so I wouldn't have to take our jib with us. Passable like dolly, push, or pull shots, so we wouldn't have to take the slider. So how did it do? Well, let's take a look at some footage, and I'll tell you what I think. So first off, in terms of the EC1 working as a jib, I found it actually worked really well. It does take still a fair amount of muscle control and really being conscious of how you move your body so that it's stable. But as a jib, it worked pretty good. And it was way quicker to set this up than to bring out the sticks, put the jib on, extend the arms, balance it, and get it going for that one or two passes. I found that in terms of the jib shot, I could get good results doing the basic up and down movement, but also got pretty decent results mixing the vertical movement with kind of a horizontal sweep. So one of the shots I knew I wanted to use with the EC1 was kind of a push shot, maybe having talon in the foreground and pushing through them to kind of reveal the scenery. And it worked pretty well. I did have to employ kind of the ninja duck walk approaching the talon, so it would mitigate the up and down bob. And as I got to the end of the walk, I really used my arms to kind of push and extend the shot. And that was really the only way that I could get that smooth looking kind of push shot that I was going for. That said, it did take a lot of takes, mostly mastering controlling this kind of vertical bob and keeping the upper body still and extending with the arm to get that fluid motion. So another thing I was really hoping the EC1 would do would be allow me to get really stable shots with the lens zoomed out. Typically, you see kind of these stabilizers used with wide-angle lenses, which is fine. Kind of wide angle helps to mitigate the judder and shake. But how does it do when you've got the lens zoomed out to the equivalent of something like 70 millimeter, 100 millimeter, or 200 millimeter? For me, the practical limit that I found was around the 70 millimeter mark, and that's using the GX85, which has in-body stabilization coupled with the stabilization in the 12 to 35 Panasonic Lumix lens. So there's a lot of help going on to get kind of stabilized shots when the lens is zoomed out. So the shot I was trying to get was to do an orbit with the lens zoomed out, knocking out the background and giving this real subtle parallax shift. And I was able to pull it off, but it took some work. So zoomed out, orbit shots, passable. Not awesome, but you can do it. And I was only really able to do it using this kind of DIY rig. This way I could move the camera and also start to engage the motors rotating, the follow motors to rotate and control speed like this, rather than using the joystick, which isn't very good. I mean, it's a binary joystick. It's either all the way left, all the way right. There's no subtle transition in between. But if you use the follow mode, by turning the handle, in this case I was using the handlebars to do this, then I could kind of control that orbiting motion. So lastly, I knew I wanted to get shots running next to my talent while they were on bikes. And this was pretty tricky. I found myself putting the EC1 on this dual handle rig. That's how I got the best results. So I did this on a couple places. Another shot was running through the forest. The talent was riding on the gravel road, and I was hopping over logs and twigs and rocks, trying to follow them with the gimbal. In another instance, we were going down the gravel road, up and down the gravel road, and I was running as close as I could to the talent, trying to get some interesting angles with the gimbal. And with these shots, I feel like it was fairly successful. I mean, there's still like some kind of up and down fourth axis bobbing, but I think that might be an issue with any kind of gimbal system that doesn't have a way to kind of mitigate this up and down motion. So in terms of the running shots, I was pretty happy. I really only needed a couple seconds, and I got what I needed to make the piece come together. But I was surprised at how much just kind of body control and being aware of how you step and how you run and your upper body that it took to get these fluid shots. All right, so what do I think? I've used it for a shoot. It has some pros and cons. Would I buy it again? Well, first off, the Beholder EC1 is a super useful tool. Even on the first shoot, I found myself using a lot because it was a lot easier to just get those, to pick up those couple seconds of B-roll that we needed without having to set the sticks or slider or what have you. But as useful as it is, this thing is not magic. It does allow you to move the camera in interesting ways and to stabilize footage that would be really difficult handheld. But it doesn't take away all the little jitters and shakes and imperfections in how you move with it. You still have to be fairly conscious, practicing the Steadicam walk, really kind of buffering this up and down motion. I found that I had to really rely on that DIY dual handle rig that I created to get usable shots. So would I buy the EC1 again? I'm not sure. I needed a gimbal right before the shoot that we were doing, and it was at this weird time where I was really hoping to get the Came TV Optimus, but that wasn't shipping yet, and this had just begun to ship. So instead of waiting for perfection, I needed the gear that we could get at the time as quickly as possible and for a decent price point. So I guess I would get it again under those circumstances. It is a fair amount less expensive than the Came TV. At the time of purchase, this was about $900, and the Came TV Optimus was selling for $1,300 or $1,400. I think if I had the extra funds and it was available at the time, I would have probably pulled the trigger on the Optimus. But this worked really well for the shoot that we did. That said, I have not used the Optimus myself, so I can't say that would be that much better or solve the issues that we had with the EC1. So until we get the opportunity to do a direct comparison with Optimus, and it's really hard to say. But overall, I've been pretty pleased with the Beholder EC1. Again, it's not a magic bullet. It takes a lot of practice to use, to balance correctly, and a lot of experimentation to see what cameras work with what lenses best with this system. So that's it for our follow-up review of the Beholder EC1. I hope you guys found it helpful and that it's going to help you make a decision whether or not you're going to buy this. If you've got any other questions, leave those in the comments below and I'll try to answer those. If enough questions come up, then I may make another video addressing those. But if you found the video helpful, give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe. I'm planning to do more tech and video camera reviews on the channel. So stay tuned for those, and thanks for watching.